Today's story, we're going to look at a man named Job. And there is a book in the Old Testament that's called Job, and that's where we find the story of this man. I'm going to read for you a verse in the New Testament, in the book of James, that talks about Job. It says, "As you know, we consider blessed those who have persevered." That's a big word for being patient even when you're going through something tough. You've heard of Job's perseverance and have seen what the Lord finally brought about. The Lord is full of compassion and mercy. Well, the story of Job, we find out that Job was a man who loved God. And God had blessed Job with many things. He had blessed him with a wife, with children, with lots of possessions. He had lots of animals on his property. He had lots of servants. And Job loved God. Now, the book of Job tells us about an interesting conversation that had happened way up in heaven between God and Satan. Satan, who is the enemy of all of God's people. Satan had been watching Job and had seen that Job blessed God, but also had all these blessings in his life. And Satan had gone to talk to God and said, "I think the reason Job loves you is because of all the things you've given him. If you take those things away, he wouldn't love you anymore." God gave Satan permission to test Job with that. So there was terrible news that Job received one day. His servants had come running to him, one by one, telling him terrible news. "Job, there were people who attacked here and stole a whole bunch of your animals. Job, there was lightning, a fire came down from heaven. The sheep got killed. Job, your donkeys were all stolen as well." Job's animals were all gone. But then the worst news, Job, your children were in a house and a very, very strong wind came and the house fell and all your children have died. What was Job to do with such terrible news? Well, the Bible tells us what his reaction was. His response was to turn to God. And actually, there's a song that we sing at church that comes right out of the book of Job, of what Job's response was. It goes like this part of the song. "You give and take away, you give and take away. My heart will choose to say, blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your name. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Blessed be your glorious name." That was Job's heart response. That's beautiful. That he would still trust God even though he had lost so many precious things. The Bible tells us that Satan went back to God and said, "Well, yeah, okay, so yes, he still loves you even though all these things were taken from him. But if you allowed me to touch his body so that he has sickness and pain, Job would surely turn away from you." And again, God gave Satan permission to do that to Job's body. And the Bible describes that Job ended up with very painful skin condition, boils and pain. So now Job not only had lost so much, but his body was also suffering. Job's wife approached Job and said, "Why don't you just curse God and die? Why don't you just be done with this?" But Job would not turn away from God. The Bible describes that there were friends of Job that came to see him. It says that for the first while, when they saw how much suffering he had, they just sat with him, didn't say anything. It's a good idea sometimes. If you know somebody who's going through something very hard and you don't know what to say, sometimes just being with them is helpful. And then we see when the friends start talking, sometimes the talk doesn't always help. The friends were trying to help Job figure out, why has all this bad stuff happened to you? Surely you must have sinned against God and now God is punishing you. But Job knew in his heart God wasn't punishing him. Job had his own questions and had his own frustrations and disappointment and anger, and we see lots of different emotions that Job had. Near the end of the book of Job, God himself talks to Job and helps Job see some more things in his heart that needed to be changed by God. And even in that, Job's response was to turn to God, ask God to help change those things in his heart that still needed changing. And you know what God did? God did bring blessing back into Job's life. Job's wife had more children. Job got more possessions. He had more animals, even more than he had originally. He had servants again. God had brought those blessings back into his life. And Job had learned to trust God even when he couldn't see what was happening. He had patience. He was able to still keep trusting God even when he couldn't see how things were going to turn out. May we be people who let God grow patience in our own hearts, right in the midst of whatever troubles we're going through.